Thank you so much, Guy, for joining me today for this
No
very
problem.
exciting interview. And let's just get started with the questions because I have so many, but
Yeah.
we've limited it to 10.
Oh,
So
okay.
let's start with the big one. So, from TV presenter to media composer, what inspired you to enter the world of music?
Um, what inspired me eventually to make the jump was I was reading the news for the BBC, and you got this sensation that you were only ever as good as your last bulletin. And everything, just this river of time went by. And when you write a piece of music and you have a really good day and you write a great piece of music, it's there forever. And so there was so much more satisfaction in writing music than being a sort of daily journalist, to be honest. It was a no brainer. So, but I've been doing the two. I've been writing music and being a television journalist simultaneously for 10 years. So it took a long time before I made the jump from one to the other. But when I did, interestingly, when you fully commit to it, I instantly started getting proper bigger jobs. Whereas when I was only doing it part time, I didn't manage to get the really big jobs because people would always know kind of you're half and half. Whereas if you say, look, this is what I do, they go, right, okay, 13-part series, off we go. And that's what happened. And I never looked back.
Amazing. Do you feel like the skills you developed as a TV presenter transferred when you were doing your YouTube channel?
Oh yeah, I'm onto the YouTube channel definitely. Because once it takes a long time to learn to be good to talking at a camera, particularly when you're just by yourself. Um, but doing pieces to camera is a kind of is what every television journalist has to do all the time. So yeah, being good at doing that definitely translates into the YouTube. But it was very rare when I was with the BBC that I would try and write music in the boot of a VW in Tesco car park. So there is a sort of wacky left field thing to the YouTube channel, which is fun, which God knows where that comes from. Absolutely no idea.
And a deep question. So, in order to understand who you are today, what do we need to
Hmm.
know to understand how you become the person you are today?
That I'm. It's really okay. How do you come to understand how I'm quite driven. I'm always doing too many things at the same time. Uh, Hence, I'm writing music and running an education company, just like I used to be being a television journalist and writing music. So, one career never seems to be quite enough. Um, and that the reason you do it is twofold. Firstly, you need to make a living. So, why do you write music? I write music because I love it. I write music because when I write a great piece of music, uh, it gives me a sort of a buzz and a sensation like absolutely nothing else on earth. And that is a kind of drug which you can't get. So you're always looking for the next time you write something great, which you're going to say, okay, that's really, really good. But at the same time, you need to, uh, pay the bills. And that side of being a composer is very different, very different. And often what you end up doing are jobs which won't, give you that, warm, fuzzy feeling, but will pay the bills for years to come. So, like everything else, a lot of things are a balance between, more than one thing. So it isn't really a very good answer to the question, but it's, I mean, you know, I'm, I think I'm like quite a lot of media composers. I'm at heart a creative entrepreneur, and I like the idea of working for myself. I love the idea of starting something and making it grow. But but I'm passionate about the music I write, and you bring those two things together, and you get a media composer.
Did you ever have a point in your life where music was the only thing you did, or has it always came with the other things?
It's a good question. I know there's always been something else. So, well, oh no, 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 that's not true. That's not true. Oh no, no, okay. We've only sorry, we've only been doing the degree since 2015. Prior to that, the education side of the business was really small. I mean, I used to talk to an accountant and I said, well, the education side is a little bit like the sort of pot plant you leave in the corner of the office and don't water, but it keeps going. And so for the vast majority of the time, actually, I mean, I was 95% composer. I mean, when I was doing uh, between sort of 2005 and 2015, which is the real peak of the animation stuff, when you're doing at best slash worst 5 shows at the same time, um, you don't have time to do anything else. I was completely music for 10, 15 years probably, with a little bit of the education going on the side. But then there came this moment where, an opportunity presented itself and boom, suddenly we have ThinkSpace. Oh my Lord. you know. So yeah. So yes, there was a period where I did very much music all the time.
Amazing. And what do you feel? Because obviously you've got a lot of experience as a composer and you've seen a lot of new composers come and go. What has been the most important lesson that you've learned in your career that you wish you knew when you started?
That's a really difficult one. And when it comes, the most difficult part of the job is communication with your client, understanding what the client wants, really getting on the same wavelength, taking the time to understand their world, that it's their project and you have to find a way of fitting inside it. And then that's really it, that it is all about relationships with clients and their work and understanding them and understanding the work they've created, whether it's a film or a game or a television series. Then you can start to understand these sort of strands of meaning which run through that work and decide how best to try and support them with music and which ones to feature and all that kind of thing. But it is, taking the time to be sort of calm and open to their ideas and really to get inside their head and try and understand their perspective. That, I think, takes quite a lot of learning. But the hardest thing in the being a media composer is this business of trying to really understand what they're after and how best to serve them and the project. Because sometimes what you think the project wants is not necessarily what the director thinks the project wants. And trying to navigate that kind of issue is really hard. And it's not something which a 25-year-old me could have done very easily. And because it takes experience and maturity, I think, in some respects, to be able to navigate these complicated issues. But when you do, when you're completely in sort of symmetry and with your client, then you produce your best work, because it's not like you're just sitting at home writing your best music. The client brings out the best in you too. So this is not a one-way street. It's a symbiotic relationship, because when a client pushes you to do more or pushes you in a direction you wouldn't have gone otherwise, you are going to do a piece of work which is probably your best work and becomes unique. And that's what I didn't completely get when I first started.
I like that, because then when you're pushed out of your comfort zone, you make new discoveries and opens up a whole new world. Brilliant.
It does.
And what do you feel is the most important quality a composer must have to become successful?
Well, there's a lot. I've already mentioned the importance of relationships and understanding your client. The ability, obviously, to work fast is not just a commercial necessity, but it's also a creative one, because if it takes you a week to come up with an idea, you're going to be reluctant to throw it away. If it takes you a morning, you can chuck it away and start again. And the ability to work at speed, therefore, gives you more creative choices. So that's a really important thing. The ability to understand how a film or television program or game is working intellectually, so that you can really understand the dynamic and know where the music's going to fit in and how it's going to help. That's much underestimated by a lot of composers. A lot of composers think, "Oh, I need to know harmony. I need to be really great at production. All that. All that's a given." What makes a really great composer is somebody who understands the film as well as the director does, and can communicate on an equal level with the director, so that they're talking the same language. That's what makes all the difference, I think, really.
Oh, good one. Good one. And if you were starting out today as a media composer, you got all of the skills, but you needed the work. What 3 things would you do to get started?
I would pick the right area of the business. And I think the most promising area of the business probably at the moment is games, because it's growing fast and it's well budgeted, so you're likely to get paid. I would take the time to go and meet people in person. I think that the whole virtual world has encouraged people to think that finding the name of somebody on a film production, sending them an email with a link to your website, that equals marketing, and it doesn't. Because the very fact that you could do that 50 times in a morning means there's probably 1,000 other people doing it 50 times in a morning as well. And if you take the trouble to go to a film festival, go to a games conference, whatever else it is, you'll suddenly find, the competition has dropped away. I've been to huge animation fair. I've been to what was it? Someone called in America. Anyway, Comic-Con. I know it's not Comic. Anyway, but it doesn't matter. But it's massive with every conceivable client you could ever want, and there were 3 other composers there. Now, taking the time to get on a plane, go to Florida, go to the thing, and do your thing. That's where you make friends. That's how you cut through the chase and get to the source of the work. But the most important thing is never stop focusing on the music, because it's not I hear people say sometimes, "Oh, it's all who you know." It's sort of, but that's not going to help if your music's mediocre. And if you can't produce music which stands up and sounds completely different to everybody else's, if you're not constantly pushing forward to try and be different, if you're not seeing how everybody else is working and then trying to find a sound of your own, and making it as good as humanly possible, then you're not going to get any work. So that has to be the number one thing. If you focus on the music, and be reasonably active, everything else will follow.
Oh, that's good advice. And if you could click your fingers right now and attain a new musical skill, what would that be and why?
I'd love to be able to play violin or cello really, really well. Because it's, I write a lot for live orchestra, which is a great privilege. But so much of that is how string instruments work, and it just would be wonderful to really understand that from their side of the stand rather than mine. And I love, when I'm writing, being able to play little instruments and things. And I'm mediocre at about a dozen instruments, but it'd be just great to be a really classy cellist. I think that's what I'd do. No, it doesn't work though, does it?
Yeah, we all wish. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I would have never imagined you would have picked violin or cello.
I mean, it's just the most unattainable, because I can't begin to imagine how you do it. I mean, because I'm a really bad guitarist, but I can see how you get to your level by, I can see in some other world that if I dedicated 10 years of my life, I might get to a reasonable standard of competence. But I just can't begin to imagine how I'd ever be a cellist. So it's quite, maybe I'll just go and buy a cello now, a school cheap cello, and see what happens. That'll be fun.
Or your YouTube channel is about to get really interesting.
Yeah. Guy learns the cello. Oh no.
So what do you do then when a new project comes in, really tight deadline, but you're experiencing a creative block? What do you do in that situation?
You write music because that's the difference between being an amateur composer and a professional composer. Whether you're inspired or not, you do it. It's as simple as that. And you just sit down and you fall back on technique. I think it Brian Eno who said that you know technique's there when inspiration gives up, or something like that. You won't write your best work, but you will hit the deadline and you will do the work. And if you've been doing this for, I don't know, a good number of years, you can do it. I mean, there are times when it's almost impossible to put one note in front of another, and you say, but you just have to tough it out and get it done, because you can go through the motions, and it will always sound derivative, and it won't be, stunning, but you'll get it done. And then sometimes once you've got yourself started, then then things start falling into place. I mean, but it is very difficult sometimes writing music, particularly if you've got all kinds of other things going on in your life, and you've got stresses and strains and all this. The very last thing in the world you want to do is sit down and write music. But sometimes it's very cathartic and it's good for you. So yeah, no, if you're a professional composer, Monday morning 9 o'clock, you do the business, come what may.
I remember you saying writing bad music is better than not writing music, because you can always fix bad music, and it's a starting point.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you something to jump off from. And you can't just sitting there staring at the keys or staring at a blank sheet of paper. Just do anything.
Do you find it's a common thing where, like, when someone has a creative block, the first thing that I've noticed people do is they go straight onto a forum or straight onto some form of social media and go, I've got a creative block, what do you do? And then they spend the next 2 hours talking about the creative block and not actually resolving the problem.
It out. Yeah, I know. I mean, there's lots of things you do. I mean, you change instrument, change location. Sometimes you'll just get caught in a cycle where you can't get out of a particularly bad idea. You tend to have a really good period when you first start writing in the morning. Your first hour or two is when you're likely to come up with your best ideas, I find. And particularly if you're trying to write a tune or some big theme or something like that. And then after that, it's very difficult to come up with a new idea until you completely reset, gone to sleep, and started again. So sometimes you just have to, if you are trying to write the big theme for a film or something, you have to admit defeat at some point and actually go for a walk, do something completely different, and then come back.
Yeah, good advice. I do the same thing. And
yeah.
So Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Thor, The Incredible Hulk. So what's your favorite Marvel character theme that you've written, and why?
The Avengers was great. Ultimate Avengers it really worked so well with the characters. I enjoyed it. And also it had it was 100 episodes of television, so I got lots of opportunity to play with it. I mean, with film themes, you get 90 minutes or whatever, and then it's gone. With the Marvel films, which one did I like best? Thor was good. I enjoyed Thor because it was different to the others. The whole filmmaking cycle had got more sophisticated by then. It was a better movie than some of the earlier ones, and we had a bigger orchestra, and I think I got better at writing music. So, I can still hear that stuff from the Thor movie and think, okay, that's all right. Yeah, I wouldn't write that differently now. So, yeah, I mean, they're all very theme driven. They're very traditional cinematic approach to the world of superheroes. But then the television was completely different. I mean, because we did Hulk, Agents of Smash. I mean, Superhero Squad. which had lots of fart jokes in it. I mean, it couldn't be more different. Um, but so, although they are all Marvel superheroes, there was an enormous range within that. And then latterly, I did a whole load of these little motion comics, which came out of a different branch of Marvel. And because they were much lower budget, they gave you tons more room to do more experimental stuff. And that was really, really good fun because the motion comics, I could do all kinds of things which probably wouldn't go through sort of the main Marvel animation studio. But it was, happy days. I mean, I think I've done enough superheroes. But, there's only so much you can say about people doing, but musically, no, but it was a laugh. It was really good fun. Nice people to work with. We had a great time.
I really liked your Doctor Strange theme, and I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah,
the music in that was
yeah.
very similar to what they'd done in recent times with the newest Multiverse of Madness movie, which felt more like your original score for Doctor Strange. Do you reckon that Danny Elfman did some research, went on Spotify, and went, "Oh, I might do that"?
Look, I don't know about the Danny Elfman one. There's definitely been some similarities between some of the stuff we did and some of the movie themes. But we will draw a veil over that. Doctor Strange was great because I was the first person to have a go at him because they'd never done a movie of Doctor Strange before they did the animated one. And so to have a blank canvas, because all the others had something before, but Doctor Strange, they sort of pull out of the shadows, literally and metaphorically. And so it was really, I could imagine him musically. And he's completely different, as we all know, to the rest of the Marvel cinematic universe. So it was very, it was challenging, but it did work out really well. And you're right. Now I think about it, I can. There's still cues I can remember in that which I was really proud of.
Yeah, I've given that one a few listens myself, and I just thought you captured the character, the vibe of the character really well in the music. And I struggle now to watch the first Marvel movie of Doctor Strange because I feel like the music is a little bit disconnected from the character compared to the animated series.
Well, I think sometimes the role of music in animation is more. I mean, it's quite different because you're supporting the aspects of the animation and the characterization, which you're helping the animation go the extra mile. Because with the exception of I mean, very high end 3D animation is now. There's just as much sort of empathy in the character performance as there is in live action. But 2D animation, which is what all the early Marvel features were, there is a limit to how sophisticated the animation could be in terms of communicating emotion. And so the music has to give it a helping hand. And so the role of the music is quite different to in live action film, where it's, the live action is picking up on other things and fulfilling a different role, often a more subtle role. So it's nice to be wanted, and in animation, you can't really take the music away because the film doesn't work. So, no, it's not, you feel a more, a crucial part of the whole jigsaw.
That's certainly true. So you're credited with creating the world's first online postgraduate degree provider in composition for film, for games, and TV. So what inspired you to go down that route and do that?
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, when I was first a professional composer, people used to phone me up and say, how do I get to do what you do? And there were mostly people who come out of straight music degrees, and I would spend half an hour on the phone. And shortly thereafter, I started, okay, we'll just do a little course, and it's going to be, you get a ring binder and some video cassettes and all that. And that's how it all started back in the mid-90s. That rolled along. Over the course of the years, I started doing some visiting lecturing at a number of universities and things and talking to their MA students. And it became apparent to me that what we were doing and our online course was in many respects different and sometimes better than what they were doing in a traditional university. And there was a space for somebody to come at this from very much from the industry side rather than the academic side and produce a a way for people to learn the skills they needed to a professional level to get into the industry. And particularly the joy of online is it works for people who've already got lives, who are not 20-year-old graduates looking for, a postgrad before they go out and get a job. It's for people who are already working, who are working musicians, who are working software engineers who want to jump ship and have a career change. That's the joy of online. So we started the online degrees, and everything about what we did is different. And being a square peg in a round hole in the academic world has been very hard. It's been very difficult. But we've now got 300 students. We've got graduates with Emmys and Grammy nominations, doing incredibly well. So it's working, and it's adding value to people's career choices and giving them options they didn't have before.
Yeah, it's certainly true. I mean, to see the success stories has been incredible. It seems like every week there's something new that somebody's achieved. And I think it comes down to the fact that they're being taught in a non-romanticized way how to approach the industry, of how it is today and where it's going tomorrow, as opposed to how it was in the early 90s, which I think a lot of universities fall into that category of teaching the old ways of things, or how the lecturers feel it should be, not as opposed to how it really is.
It really is. And it's also the focus on film, that the vast majority of courses focus on film scoring, which is what people initially want, but it's not where 98% of the industry earns a living. People score films, but they will make a living doing commercials, doing television shows, doing games, doing trailers, all kinds of things. And so but it's not just that you do that because that's what you want to do to make a living. These areas are really interesting, really interesting. There's a lot to be said for I think game scoring is potentially more challenging and offers more opportunities than film scoring. And as an industry, it's obviously it's solvent and it's growing really fast, and the film industry is in a lot of trouble. So I think the greatest failing of sort of film and television music education is an over reliance on the film industry and this notion of orchestral film scoring, as opposed to providing music, writing music for a range of media, which is the reality.
That's for sure. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights and for answering the 10 questions. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And most importantly, thank you for taking the time out of your extremely busy schedule to do this, because I know you've got a lot going on at the moment. So what have we got to look forward to?
Oh, Lord. I've just finished 2 wildlife films over the summer, did a Netflix show earlier in the year, which will come out early next year. And I'm just starting prepping for another American wildlife series, which is going to be really good fun. Plus all the exciting stuff on the YouTube channel and all the exciting stuff in Think Space World. We've got some amazing developments coming along there as well. So I better get on with it.
Yeah, well, I will let you get on with it now. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing
You're welcome.
Hands out.